Morning, all. It is me again. We're going to pick up where we left off. We've been talking about the Bible. We were specifically talking about the commandments. Why you have commandments, why God gives us commandments is to protect us. Imagine a place of danger. I'm sure you've been around high voltage areas. What do they put on around those places? Danger. Do not touch. High voltage. Or peligro in Spanish. It's to warn you that there's danger there. In the same way with commandments. Don't do it. And God doesn't explain why. He did with Adam. He said, you're going to die. He doesn't explain to us why. We just have to believe him that there's going to be consequences when we violate those warning signs. When I was about 10 years old, I worked worked for a bakery selling donuts. And about 10 years old, we were right next to the bakery was right next door to a bleach factory. And my buddy and I, we were both about 10 years old. We saw this place over there. It had this big sign on the door. It says no entrance, warning, danger. Well, being 10 years old, we wanted to know what was on the other side of that door. So we went through the warning signs and we went into this like a warehouse, but right in the middle of the warehouse floor, there was a big vat that was probably, I'm guessing, 15 feet tall with stairs going up the side and a walkway around it. So we're here. We went up there and took a look inside that vat. I remember to this day that liquid that was in there was just a gray, ugly looking stuff. And as we were leaned over looking at the vat, this man screamed, "Ah! What are you doing? Get out from there! Get out from there! Come here! Come here right now!" Well, we're 2 10-year-old kids. There's this big guy in there screaming at us, "Come here!" We didn't want to go there. So he came up to where we were, and once he got up there, he wasn't quite so vocal with us. And he explained to us. He said, "This that you're looking at is acid." And he said, if you were to fall in there, then no one would ever know what happened to you, unless one day they cleaned the vat out and found some of your bones. It was a danger. Stay out. Obedience to these commandments, in fact, obedience to God, period, has some really good benefits. Anybody know what the first commandment with promise in the Bible is? Well, you can find it in the New Testament in Ephesians chapter 6. It said, "Children, honor your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and thy mother," which is the first commandment with promise, "that thy days may be long on the earth, and it may be well with thee." That's a promise. Just honor your parents, and all these good things are going to happen to you. But to me, there's even a more generalized command. And we quote it all the time, and I don't think we really understand it completely. Well, probably we don't understand any of the verses completely. But it's in Proverbs. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths." That's so important. If I obey God today, he's going to lead my paths tomorrow and all of my tomorrows. It's just well, let me say this to you. Your enemy, you have an enemy. The one that's behind all this stuff that's going on in the United States, all this stuff that's going on in the world. There is one mastermind behind it all. He has a plan he's working on. And he does not have your best interest at heart. Out in your pathway, there are traps laid for you. Some of them even might cost you your life. Now, God doesn't tell us what those traps are, nor where they are. But he just says, obey me. And if we obey God, just by virtue of the obedience, He steers us around the traps. We never see what they are. Many times we don't ever know what we missed. Uh, we were in Houston, and we were traveling down the service road going somewhere, I think Kmart or somewhere like that. And just on a spur, we were passing the Bible bookstore. And I just whipped in the parking lot. It startled everybody in the car. What are you doing? What are you doing? I just want to check on the book, see if it's in. So I went in. It wasn't in. Got back in the car and went on down there. And lo and behold, at the next red light, the intersection with the traffic light, a truck hauling roofing material had run the red light and collided with the car that had been behind me that was stopped at the red light. So, we don't know. God saves us from things that we don't even know. Don't even know. Obedience also brings prosperity. Prosperity. When you start obeying God, things start changing in your life. Now, I can't guarantee you that God's going to make you rich, because He doesn't guarantee that in His Bible. But He does guarantee prosperity. He does that. Let me tell you where. In Joshua 1, the Lord told Joshua, "This book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth, but that shall meditate therein day and night, that you may observe to do all that is written therein. For then shall you make your way successful, and then shall you have good success." Psalm 1, and this is no accident. Psalm 1 is stated the way it is. The Hebrew Bible is divided different from the English Bible. There's the law and the prophets and the writings. The writings are the big, it's what the Lord calls Psalms. When He explained the Bible to His disciples, He said, beginning at Moses and all the prophets and in the Psalms, He showed them the things concerning Him. Well, the Psalms is the introduction to the others. And the introduction to Psalms is Psalm 1. It said, the man that God blesses is the one that doesn't live his life according to the advice of the wicked. He doesn't congregate with sinners. He doesn't sit around criticizing people, but his delight is in the instruction of the Lord. The King James says, the law of the Lord. Law, and the Hebrew word is Torah. It means law or instruction. Call it what you will. But he meditates in it day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that brings forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Now that's what God said. I didn't make that up. What God said. And check your own life out. As you start trusting in the Lord and giving yourself to Him, things will start looking up for you too. Now, again, I can't tell you that God's going to make you rich, but He will prosper you. He will prosper you. Okay, another thing, a biggie to me, because I'm someone that the majority of my life I'm looking at in the rearview mirror. But obedience to God's word extends life, like we just read in Ephesians, and it's in Exodus, that if you honor your mother and father, it's going to be well with you. You're going to live a long time. Proverbs 3 also says this: "My son, forget not my law, but let your heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee." I mean, when you're 20 years old, you're indestructible, so what, so what? But at the other end of the life, when you're in your 70s, that sounds pretty good. Pretty good. Okay. Also, Proverbs 9:11 says, "By me thy days shall be multiplied, and the years of thy life shall be increased." It's all a matter of obeying God's commandments. Now, by the way, when God suggests something to us, that's a commandment. Let me say to you that included, in addition to the commandments, there are the instructions, where God corrects us, where God steers us. And these are so important. When right about the time my daughter Stephanie was born, I ran over my foot with a lawnmower. Now, yes, why in the world? How could you do that? Well, lawnmowers of that day and time were a little different. Not to get into all the details, but I couldn't work. I couldn't work. I was laid up, and I said, my wife had just given birth, and we had bills to pay. And excuse me, I'm having an itchy nose this morning. We had bills to pay, and I was worried, really worried about paying them. A lady from our church came by to visit us, and she came in the bedroom there, and she said, "Oh, this is a nice room. You got a private entrance here too." I said, "Yes." She said, "My daughter, who just finished a year at Bob Jones University, is looking for an apartment, and we don't want her to move into an apartment. We would rather her live with a family in the church, so they can look out for her and so forth. And we'll pay you rent. We'll give you money for groceries." And boy, that sounded to me like this is God's sin. I just knew that was God doing this. And so I told her, it being really pious and spiritual, that's why I prayed about it. Well, honestly, my idea of praying about it was, thank you, Lord, for the money. But in all seriousness, I did pray about it that night. And the next morning was the 17th day of August, 1979. I got up, and at that time I was reading a chapter of Proverbs every morning. So I opened it up to the 17th chapter of Proverbs, and verse number 1 says this: "Better is a dry morsel, and quietness therewith, than a house full of sacrifices with strife." So I asked God, He answered me, and I believed Him. And so I didn't want strife in my house, so I told the lady I can't do it. Well, the girl went on and moved into a house with another family in the church. And as it turned out, the girl was a wild child. She had gone a year to Bob Jones University because her parents thought, well, if she would just go and be a year there in a good Christian school, she'll get saved and it'll be all right. Didn't work out that way. Shortly after she moved in with that other family, she came home drinking and bringing men she'd picked up there to the house, and she wouldn't stop. And so the family that was housing her took her and her goods and threw her in the street. And all the time I was in Houston, there was strife and enmity between those two families. And God had spared me from that. Now, that's what I know. But let me just project something to you. This is something I've thought about since. When that happened, I haven't always been an old man. I was in my 30s when that happened. And I imagine the possibilities of putting a 25-year-old woman in my house that loves to drink and sleep with men that she doesn't know. The possibilities that God probably saved me from also. But He warned me. He warned me. Now, one other thing, and I'm going to close this segment. Along about that time, had a friend at the church taking me to the doctor. And we had a normal route that we went every day. I had to go every day to the doctor. But one day we went a different route because I wanted to get a loaf of bread. They only sold this particular, you know how I am about what I eat, this particular bread at a certain store. So there we went. Now, the doctor had just told me that day, "You'll be off of work for 6 weeks." And I thought, oh no. I thought I'd be back to work that week. As we passed by the Shepherd Drive Baptist Church, there on their marquee was this verse from Psalm 56. And I was terrified, you understand. "What time I am afraid, I will trust in thee." And I knew that the God who was able to steer my path where I would see that verse, put that there just for me, was certainly able to take care of me. And I'll have more to say. I've got a lot more to say about this, but I'm going to close this. I'll pick it up on the other side shortly. Thank you for listening. Hope it's helped. Bye-bye.